Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the series where I get to speak to you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections, finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. Okie dokie then, so who do we have on this week's episode? Well, why don't we find out? Let's take a look at some of his collection in a musical montage. Okay then, so lots of G.I. Joe there, and as you can see, they are beautifully displayed in some fantastic photography. And I've got to say, I'm blown away by this photography. It is absolutely stunning. It's a pleasure to welcome to the channel for the first time, mate Mylar. How are you doing, sir? Thank you so much for being part of this.
Well, thanks for having me, Stu. Happy to be here.
To have you on. Like I say, we'll get to your photography in a minute, but I've just from your what fantastic photography you take, sir. Absolute a joy to look at. So really enjoying that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so you say you know a little bit about the series. I've got 10 questions for you, all about you, your collection, and your photography. Run time roughly about an hour. If we go over, it's it doesn't really matter. So if you're happy, we'll crack on with the first question.
Yeah, let's get cracking.
Awesome. What toy lines were you into as a kid, and what memories do you have of them?
As a kid, it started out with He-Man. A
Okay, yeah,
little late to the party with He-Man, so it was like the battle armor stuff. I managed to get a
okay,
Battle Cat and whatnot, but as soon as I started watching the GI Joe cartoon, I was hooked. I was, yeah, all into GI Joe. That military fantasy vibe. That just absolutely loved it. So watching the cartoons on repeat, like the series from '82 to '85, that Sunbow series, the Mass
yeah.
Device, those first two miniseries, those were great. So graduated after GI or after He-Man, graduated to GI Joe, and just didn't look back. Had a few Transformers and whatnot. Air Raiders was kind of big. Starcom. Friends got into video games, Nintendo, whatnot. But yeah, I was just full on O-ring GI Joe.
I, yeah, I can see your appeal there for that. I mean, I loved it as a kid. Absolutely fantastic toy line. So it was the cartoon then that got you into it. Was you into like GI Joe previous to that before you saw the Sunbow cartoon, or was it predominantly the cartoon that said, "Well, I'm liking this," and then you got the toy line?
Yeah, it was definitely the cartoon. I was 4 years old, and it was came
Wow.
on 7:30 in the morning, so I'd watch
Yeah.
that with my cereal and my PJs, and then afterwards I was just playing GI Joe. I didn't have any of the toys at the time. I think I
Yeah.
was a little young for my folks to go and get that. But the summer of '85, we moved to a new house, and I remember that fall, my father taking me to the local Sears, and they just had a wall of Joes, and I got to pick my favorite one, and I didn't really recognize too many that were on the shelf. I really wanted the Duke, but it was
Yeah.
too late for that in '85. So Ripcord, I picked up a Ripcord because he looked
Decent figure.
without his helmet.
Decent
He
figure.
was similar to Duke, so he was going to be my Duke, and yeah, so took off from
That
there.
is so cool. So what was your initial reaction then, or what were your feelings when you walked into that store and then you saw that whole wall of GI Joe figures? I mean, how good does that feel as a kid when you just see all of that goodness in front of you?
It's amazing. Like, I didn't know what I was gonna get into or what I had no expectations. I was so young and whatnot. But I mean, you walk into that toy store and it's a whole aisle of Joes. And now I know as an adult, it's a 4-foot section that had all the figures, and
Mm,
it easily was twice as high as I was tall. And yeah, just blew my mind, the options, and not like shopping for toys today. That's for sure.
absolutely not. No, no, I agree with that. So you said you missed out on Duke. Were there any other figures that you missed out on? Because when you say you missed out on them, they stopped selling those figures in the shops, or
Yeah.
they were just like moving on to different characters and stuff like that.
That's right. I was too young to know, but I figured, if it's on TV, then it's got to be available in store. I mean, everybody's going to want
Yeah.
these figures, so it might have come out last year, but like, there's a new crop of kids that are just coming of age and want those figures. So I just thought, okay, everything that's on TV's got to be available. And now as an
Mm,
adult, I realize that there's um, like cycles that this goes through, and last year's stuff
yeah.
is only going to be available next year, and then they're going to refresh that, and they want to sell more toys to the people that already have those toys. and
Mm.
and I mean, we all know that story. But yeah, so there was a few that I really wanted. I couldn't get off the bat. Snake Eyes was one. I mean, it was '85, but it was impossible to find a Snake Eyes in the store.
Is that the
uh,
one with? Is that Ninja with Timber?
that's right, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had, aunts, uncles, grandparents, everybody, some in the States, some here in Canada, East Coast, West Coast, everybody looking for them, and couldn't find them. And, I think my dad actually ended up tracking one down at a yard sale,
Oh
a
wow,
few years later. So I was, like, 7 or 8 when I finally got one, but, oh, he was my favorite figure, and still is.
that is awesome. That is awesome. What vehicles did you have? Did you have any of the
Let's see,
vehicles or play sets?
a lot of the small ones, the Cobra
Yeah.
Ferret, the
Yeah.
Striker, hands down my all-time favorite. Uh, I think it was a couple years after it was released, and I asked for it for Christmas, and I was looking at the catalogs and had all those old cross-sell catalogs that came with other vehicles and whatnot, and I really wanted an Striker. And so for Christmas, my dad actually went to a whole bunch of different stores and found one that had some old stock, but they had been damaged or returned. So he and the sales clerk went out back and went through like 5 or 6 boxes with the blueprints and instructions, and got all the pieces, and managed to get one full all striker. And
How cool is
yeah,
that?
so
That is awesome.
yeah, that's a huge memory for me. Yeah, all striker hands down my favorite. And then the little play sets, the bomb transport,
Yeah.
weapon transport, machine gun defense, the checkpoint, all those little things. They were great for world building.
Mm.
And fortunately, I was in the right age. So on the weekends, my dad would take me out to all the yard sales around, and
Okay.
I managed to get a lot of incomplete, but still a lot of the old Joe stuff. So the APC and the original headquarters, and so I
Oh
had a
wow.
pretty healthy collection of the era that I wanted, all the while still getting some of the new releases, the ones that looked military that would fit into
Yeah.
my play pattern. But I really wasn't into the futuristic stuff. And once they started going neon, I was out on buying new releases. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
That was towards the late 80s, wasn't it? That was when they was it Eco Warriors or something along those lines.
Eco
They went into
Warriors,
that
but
kind
even
of
before
yeah,
that, Deep Six V2, a great design, the removable helmet, fully articulated, and the diving
yeah.
bell and the harpoon and everything. But I mean, the blue and the orange, just gaudy colors. If they could have
Mm.
toned that down, that would have been a
What?
favorite
Why?
figure, I think.
Why do you think they went that way? What was the reasoning behind that?
Um, 4 words, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ah,
They were
okay.
huge in the late '80s, or at least here they were. All my friends
Mm.
got into Turtles, and I didn't really see the appeal. I mean, it was kinda cool, it was interesting, I didn't hate it, but,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it didn't drag me away from Joe. So I think they were trying to corner that market, or maybe not corner it, but, get a piece of that pie, and the Turtles were all, like, very neon and very bright and
Mm.
flashy, and that's cool and stuff, but, yeah, that really wasn't what I was into.
No. Were you into the comics? Did you get any of the G.I. Joe comics?
I did, but there wasn't a comic shop in my small town, so, like, getting them were hit or miss, so anytime I saw
Mm.
one on the shelf, I picked it up, but had no idea of the story or what was going on. But through some, friends who had older brothers who were reading the comic, then they filled me in on the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow backstory and the Arashikage, and, so
Yeah.
I got the story secondhand, but it was enough that I was like, this is a very interesting world. It's similar to the cartoon, but
Mm.
it felt like graduating. Like the cartoon was your entry level Fisher Price, My
Yeah.
First GI Joe, and then you graduate to the comics when you get a little older, and
Okay.
some really clever in depth storytelling there. I'm huge Larry
Oh,
Hammond fan.
absolutely. I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, some of the stories that they had in those comics. I mean, fast forward a few years, I started to collect. It must have been about 2010, something like that. They started doing the IDW comics, and they
Yep,
started doing like GI Joe stories and stuff like that. So there was a few good storylines there. You had the GI Joe Origins, where every month you'd have an issue on a certain character, like it would be Mainframe, Scarlet, or and I really got into those, but then I found with the comics, one comic would then cross over into another one, so you'd have to buy the other one to carry on that story. Then it just become a mismatch, and it was like, wow, getting one comic a month to then end up getting like 4 or 5 different comics a month just to carry on the story and whatnot. I mean, they're very clever how they do that, because then it makes you want to buy that next set of comic stories and stuff like that.
that's right.
So I was going to ask you what your favorite toy line was, but you've already asked that question. So anything else, like once He-Man went by the wayside, I'm assuming. So did
Yeah,
you watch, like, obviously you watched Master of the Universe as a kid,
yeah.
Transformers and all the rest of the cartoons, but they did not have that appeal to you that G.I. Joe did. G.I. Joe did. God's sake, tongue tied. G.I. Joe did. There you are. So
No, I mean, they were fun, and me and my
yeah.
friends, we played He-Man, we played Transformers, but we'd always come back,
Mm,
or maybe I was always bringing it back to GI Joe. So we knew all the lines from the cartoons, and we would reenact that with our toys. We'd reenact that as like ourselves, and making cardboard guns and guns out of wood and whatnot, and
yeah.
yeah, replaying those scenes, and let's play Commando, man, and
Ah,
yeah,
absolutely.
they look like trout just before you pop them in the frying pan and eat them. And yeah, we knew all that, so we all took turns doing the different voices and playing the different characters and reenacting those whole miniseries. And Yeah, yeah, it was just reliving that miniseries as much as possible. Now, here in the East Coast of Canada, or at least with the 3 channels that we had, we didn't have cable growing up. That's all we
Mm,
had. We didn't get the Deke
yeah,
series. We didn't get a lot of the third season. The miniseries is on Arise, Serpentor, Arise, and then the movie. And
yeah.
after the movie came out in '86, there was nothing. It was just
Mm,
repeats every once in a while here or there, but I had them all recorded on VHS, so we
yeah.
watched those over and over again.
So you've got all the seasons now of GI Joe. Then I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What did you make of the GI Joe movie, the animated movie?
At the time, I remember really liking it. I wanted to see more Snake Eyes, more Duke, and more of the characters that I grew up with. But I don't
Mm,
remember being disappointed that they were introducing new characters. I
mm,
was into the military part of it. I thought Cobra Law was very weird, but I was already primed for
yeah.
weird with the Arise Serpentor
Mm,
Arise bit. And my friends and I super weren't into Serpentor, but we thought that was like kind of a neat dynamic between Cobra Commander and Serpentor, and what does that power struggle look like? And it's always nice to have different factions too. And like in the comic,
yeah.
Destro breaks out to the Iron Grenadiers and whatnot. But yeah, we weren't into the really weird Cobra Law stuff. As I mean,
Yeah.
it's
That was weird. Yeah.
yeah, it was
That was
very weird.
weird.
But that intro, that movie intro, I mean, that was worth the cost of admission right there. That 2.5 minutes, and oh, the animation, the effects, the music,
Mm.
it brings chills every time I see it.
With animated series, did you ever watch? They did a GI Joe. Was it Retaliate? And then they did a GI Joe. Oh, oh, blimey! What's it called? Renegades.
Renegades, yep. Yeah, I
What
was
did you
into
think of those?
Renegades. There was an anime one too, Sigma 6. Uh,
Okay.
that was good. If I let go and just thought this is just an anime that I'm watching, then I was really
Yeah.
into it. I really liked
Yeah.
it. I liked the designs as far as just character designs go, but it really wasn't GI Joe for me, and I wasn't super
Okay.
digging on the new characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, Renegades, I really like that one. Nice
Yeah.
spin
I
on
mean
it.
that. Yeah. I really enjoyed that as well. What about the movies? GI Joe, Cobra Rises, and GI Joe Retaliation.
As far
How?
as I'm concerned, they haven't actually made a GI Joe movie yet. They've made movies they've
Okay.
called GI Joe, but
Right.
it's yeah, it's not
Yeah.
really not
Even
really
the
it.
Snake Eyes Origins movie was disappointing. I found.
You know what? I couldn't even watch it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
did you? So I'm guessing by that you watched a little bit, but then couldn't watch it all the way through.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Some friends of mine filled me in on some things. I hit play on it, and I was like, yeah, this
Yeah.
is pretty much exactly what they said it was going to be. Fast forward to the the end credit scene, like, okay, they're trying, but they're
Why?
kind of missing
Why
the
do
mark.
you? Why do you feel that modern day movies that we had as animated series as a cartoon, they can't seem to nail it on the head. They cannot seem to get that right. I mean, they had Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren. Now, for me, that was a god awful movie. I didn't like that at all. Now I know people did like it, and that's fair enough. These are just my opinions. So for my opinion, they didn't get that right. Then you had the Transformer movies. Now, the Michael Bay movies, they were nothing like the Transformers we had as a kid.
No,
Bumblebee is the closest movie we've had so far to that, being as a kid. The Turtle movies I've not seen, but G.I. Joe, I was so disappointed in both those movies and with the Snake Eyes Origins. So why is it that you feel that they cannot capture the essence of what those cartoons were about from the 80s?
I think there's good intentions there, but at the end of the day, I feel like it comes down to movie by committee. So you've got so many people in a room voting, and too many different interests at stake, and shareholders, and that sort of thing. So when it
Mm,
comes right down to it, the people with the ideas and the people that know the property and know how to execute it properly aren't giving or given the leeway that they need, and they kind of pander to whatever's popular in the culture at the moment. And yeah, they just need to do, because they want a bigger audience. They want everybody. They want that Iron Man MCU audience, and they want to
Mm.
build a cinematic universe, and like they do with the comics, you have to buy this other comic to get the rest of the story, so you have to watch all
Mm.
these different movies to get the parts. And if you can nail it, or do it well, like Marvel did, then
Yeah.
that's great. But it hurts the brand, and it hurts the property if you're not serving that. And um yeah, I
Mm.
think it's movie by committee. That's
Because
my call.
uh, fair enough, the animated series, looking back on it now, was kind of cheesy, and I felt Renegades had that a bit more grip to it. But we were
Mm,
kids back then. We loved that kind of thing, that kind of cartoon. Master of the Universe was cheesy, as was like Transformers to a certain degree. GI Joe was, but you had the comics for GI Joe back in those days as well. So you had the foundations, you had the look of
yes.
the figures and the vehicles within the animated series, but then you also had the look and the feel and the storylines in the comics. So you'd have thought they had the foundations there,
Yeah.
but they just
Yeah,
yeah.
back then, it was almost like you could choose your maturity level. So I like the look of this thing, but I'm not old enough to really grasp what's going on in the comics. So I
Mm,
gravitated towards the cartoons, and watched those religiously. And then when I got older, it's like, okay, I still enjoy those cartoons; they're nostalgic, but I'm looking for something a little more mature. And
yeah.
so you get to the comics, and that was really nice. I can't think of many other properties that were like that. I mean, Ninja Turtles was mainly for the younger folks.
Yeah.
Transformers kind of the same. So
Mm,
yeah, there's not a lot of properties that cross over that I can think of anyway. I mean, I
mm.
might be wrong. You might have some ideas there.
No, off my head, I can't really think of anything. I mean, I know Marvel. I mean, the phase one, two, and three, where all those movies ended with Endgame. I just thought that was executed so well.
Yeah.
They all came together to forge one ending where that was just brilliant. And I think they're going to find that very difficult to try and replicate that with what they're doing now as the MCU.
I
Absolutely.
agree. It just feels like it's doing the same thing again, but with different characters. So
Characters, yeah, yeah.
yeah, there hasn't been a lot to draw me back into the MCU after Endgame. That being said, Moon Knight, I really enjoyed that
That
series.
was different. I didn't mind Moon Knight. That was pretty good. I've
Yeah.
got to say, I'm looking forward to seeing the new Ant-Man movie and the new Guardians movie, and also there's that series with Nick Fury, Secret
Yes,
Wars, something like that.
Secret Invasion?
That looks secret. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully they don't ruin it. Moving on. When did you stop playing with your toys? And when did you become a collector?
Wow, I stopped playing with my toys probably, well, when I started chasing girls, so, like, well, 12 or 13 maybe.
Wow,
Um,
that young. Fair play.
yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah, I started young. Um But, I still collected. I was into comic books, so I was
Yeah.
going to the
Okay.
comic shop every weekend,
Yeah.
and, every once in a while, they'd have old Joes there, so I'd still pick those up. I had a little display,
Mm.
in my closet, so, I guess I was a closet collector. Um, yeah, but I never really stopped collecting. There were
Mm.
big lulls when, my late teens and early 20s, and going out and partying, having a good time, playing in rock bands and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's I was always going to the comic book shop and always buying toys. And and McFarlane. When McFarlane toys came out, that was
Yeah.
that was huge for me. I mean, the points of articulation and the detailing and everything. I think it was 17 or 18 when those came out, and yeah, I
Okay.
didn't care what the girls thought. I was buying McFarlane toys left, right, and center.
That's fine. That's fair play. I mean, he came up with Spawn, didn't he? So,
Yeah.
did you get those figures?
Oh, yeah, yeah, got the Spawn, Violator, Angela, had almost the entire first run back when it was called Todd Toys before he changed it to McFarlane.
Garland. Yeah.
And then a lot of the medieval stuff, Medieval Spawn and, Creech, huge Greg Capullo fan, so anything that
Mm.
he was doing, they were making toys of. Yeah, I was into all that.
I remember getting the first issue of the Spawn comic. I mean, I was quite into comics back then as well. So I'd had the GI Joe. I had the was it the Death of Superman, I had the one where Bane had Batman over his knee and he broke his
Yep.
back. Was that the Dark Knight or something like that, or the Fallen Knight,
Yep.
or I can't remember what
Dark
it was.
Knight Detective Comics.
And then I had the first, I think it was 2 or 3 issues of Spawn, and for some unknown reason, I decided to take them back to the comic shop and say, "Here you go," and they gave me pittance for them. And I didn't, I wasn't too aware of the value of things back then. And in the hindsight, I should have kept those comics. I should have kept those comics. But there you go. Never mind. What can you do? Right. What got you into photography, and did you have any influences?
Uh, when I got into toy photography, I didn't know it was a thing, and I didn't know I was doing a thing that was kind of a niche market. So,
Mm,
a little bit of a backstory. I was going to sell my house.
okay.
So in order to do that, I took everything that I owned and I packed it into a 16-foot by 8-foot taped off section in my basement. So if I had to get out real quick, if it sold overnight, and I could load it in a shipping container and just get out.
Yeah.
So anything I
Yeah.
didn't need was in there, and the rest of my house was completely bare. And then some things transpired with my realtor, and I had to fire her, and I wasn't super into selling the house at that point. So I thought, okay, well, I've got all the space. I used to run it as a recording studio, and I wasn't going to get back
Okay.
into that at my home at the moment. So, well,
Mm,
what can I do with all this space? I'm going to finally display all the GI Joes and comics that I've been collecting over the years. So got those back out of storage, built some shelves, turned the master bedroom into I call it the war room, but that's where I display all my GI Joe figures. And I mean,
mm,
these are just like recent new stuff that I hang in the room that I hang
okay.
out in, just so I can look at all my new acquired purchases. But yeah, so I took the master bedroom, changed it into the Joe room, and then I thought, well, they're just kind of standing there. Everything's just on a shelf, and that's a little
Mm,
boring. And it'd be cool if there were explosions, and I wanted muzzle effects for the guns and set up scenes and whatnot. So I built some dioramas and some terrain, and looked at wargaming, Warhammer, and that sort of thing, and what those guys were doing. And
mm,
well, if I just put a light bulb inside of like a chicken wire mesh thing and put some lighting gel
let
inside
me
of
just get you up
that,
there. Let me get you up there.
there we go.
Look at that.
There's the Mark II explosion. So yeah, that's just a chicken wire frame and cotton balls fluffed up, and spray adhesive onto that, and some lighting gel inside there. I think the Americans might call it cellophane.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then you just put, let's see if I got a light here. I do have a light here. So you just put like a light inside of that, and then you have an explosion. So I was doing
Well,
that, and
I'll tell you what I'll do.
yeah,
I'll just pop this up on screen. Look at
aha,
that.
there we go.
That is
Yep.
absolutely phenomenal. What an effect. That looks so, so cool.
I
I've said to
actually
you
have
before, I'm just
an
blown away by this.
example. I have an example of those LED effects right here. So that's
Yeah,
just
go for it.
a warm white. Let's see if I can get this. Yeah, warm white LED,
Yeah.
uh, and some hot glue. All that is hot glue. And I've got this little what's this called? A distro with a dimmer on it, so I can yeah, turn that up there, and now we've got dimmable blast effect that can be like a rocket or
Yeah. Yeah.
something like that. So I was setting that up just for my own personal display, and I really like the effect. I like the way it looked in person. It looks even better
Mm,
on camera because you can dial in your whatever the pros call it, f stops or shutters. I don't know. I just turn
mm.
knobs until I'm happy with the look of things. And so I just snapped with my iPhone. Just snapped a few pictures of those and put them up to my Instagram page, which had hardly any followers, and I wasn't getting
Yeah.
any action on that. So I wasn't expecting to see anything, and it kind of got a little bit of attention. So I thought, well,
Yeah, damn right.
I I can actually build dioramas real quick and explosions and take
Mm,
pictures. So uh, yeah, I was just doing that with my iPhone, and it got kind of popular pretty quickly. So then I thought, well, I mean, GI Joe is just an excuse for explosions because all the box
yeah.
art has explosions in the background. So
Yeah.
then I started making bigger explosions, and well, I can recreate this box art. And started doing that and started recreating comic book covers. And um, Carson from 3D Joe's got a hold of me and said, "Hey, I want to promote you. I really like what you're doing." And like, "Oh, yeah, absolutely." So he did a shout out, and my page blew up almost overnight. And when he did that,
Yeah,
um, let's see, GI Joe Nation, Plastic Battles, all these guys contacted me, and yeah, just throwing my name out there. So thanks to all those
absolutely
guys, I
incredible.
got
Yeah.
a nice following, and yeah, that got me into toy photography that I didn't even know was a thing until I started doing all that.
Well, it's
So
absolutely incredible, like I say. Yeah,
thank you.
brilliant. I've
No
got some more
background in.
I've got some more pictures here. So, just a question: how long would it take? I mean, that is. I mean, Sky Striker anyway is like a mwah for me. But how long would it take you to do a set like that?
Now from scratch, it's probably going to be maybe a day to build that, just
Yeah,
with dry times on spray paint and adhesive and stuff like that. But a lot of these effects I've had built for a number of years. So I've got a
yeah.
shelf out in my photography studio that, just mix and match effects like big explosions, small
Mm.
explosions, blast effects, and that sort of thing. So this particular shot, I already had that mushroom cloud built, but I built it the other way around for the AVAC to be taking, or the
Okay.
fire bat to be taking off. And
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that's what it was supposed to be. Well, I mean, that's what it was
Wow.
originally. I used that for a couple of shots, and then one day that just fell off my shelf and kind of landed a little bit upside down. I'm like, oh, wait a minute,
Excuse
I
me.
can reuse that effect. So I just threw that in the background.
Yeah.
So this really, honestly, from start to finish, this is probably 45 minutes.
Wow. Wow. Incredible. Keep talking because I've got some more here. Again, absolutely phenomenal. Wow. Look at this. How did you get that effect?
All right, so that's just I think I ended up using two 5 millimeter warm white LEDs,
Yep.
one glued to the back of each of their heads, and then I just took some plastic and mangled it up. So none of that, no bats were actually hurt in the making of
No
this
bats were
picture.
damaged in this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and just cut up some junk black plastic and mangle it a little bit, and maybe burn it with a lighter, and then reheat up that hot glue and stick the piece in and pull it out a little bit, and as it dries, the glue will become strong enough to hold those pieces of plastic there, and you get your effect.
Absolutely incredible. It really is. And again, this just it's so vibrant and it looks so effective. It's just phenomenal. It really is absolutely incredible.
Don't get
Wow.
me wrong, there's nothing wrong with Photoshop. There's a lot of people out there that are skilled with Photoshop, and
Yeah.
I've done some drawing and whatnot. So I know how to use Photoshop and do that sort of thing, but that's not what
Yeah.
I want to do with this. I'm
Mm,
a big fan of Star Wars, like 77 and those practical
yeah.
effect guys, and I watched all those documentaries, and well, I can kind of do a similar sort of thing with GI Joe, and really like the look of the practical effects. Um,
Yeah.
that being said, it'd be easier in Photoshop. I could just sit on my
Mm,
couch and play around, and there are some amazing artists out there doing stuff with Photoshop and toy
yeah.
photography. But yeah, for me, I kind of I just like doing it with my hands. I like being in camera in that old analog analog way of doing things. I
Yeah.
like the romance of it.
Because I follow you on Instagram and I like your pictures. And when you put a picture up there, you got the picture of the final shot, but then you got another one, you got a video and you got the camera and you pull back and you can actually see that is just so fascinating to me. It is a real talent, an absolute talent, and that was just an off chance that you did that and
Yeah,
just thought I'm going to take some photography and now it's ended up like this.
yeah.
Incredible, absolutely incredible.
When I was first posting, I wasn't really aware of how much people were doing in camera or how much people were doing Photoshop. So
Mm,
I was just putting up the main
yeah.
picture, and then once a month I would do like a BTS post, and that was just some
Mm,
unused shots or behind the scenes of some previous shots or whatever. And then I thought, well, instead of doing that, why not I just like put like a proof? In my mind, I was calling it a proof video. So
yeah.
this is the proof that what I did here is all in camera and not
Mm,
photoshopped after the fact. And yeah, so I just kind of put that up there for my own little. Yeah, this is just some street cred, I guess, to add some weight to it. Yeah, and that kind of became my MO. It's like, here's the main shot, and here's a quick BTS of the setup that I was using. Sometimes I like setting up in front of the picture window so I can get sunlight at different times of the day.
Yeah.
So if I need something really bright and washed out, then between like 10 a.m. and noon, the sun is hitting that window at just the right angle. I can get the rim
Mm.
light and that sort of thing. Or at night when the sun's going down, it's behind my house, so it's often
Okay.
purple out there, and
Yeah.
I can put different color filters in front of the window and change that and do dusk shots and that sort of thing.
So do you? I'm assuming then that you do the majority of your photography inside. Have
Yes.
you ever tried doing it outside at all, or do you not get the same effect?
I have a little bit, but I'm right in Halifax here, and there's some
Okay.
let's say questionable neighbors' kids. So
Oh,
yeah, getting the privacy that I would need and to run the power out there for the explosions and that sort of thing, they wouldn't quite be bright enough with a battery
right. Yeah.
competing with the sun. So yeah, it just be a little bit too cumbersome in the area that I am right now. But I have had
Okay.
some ideas. There's a tree that fell down in my backyard. I need to take a chainsaw to and make uh, some forest scenes out of those limbs.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's some stuff I'd like to do outside. I'd really like to do some outdoor explosions at some point, but just haven't got around to it yet.
Is it just GI Joe that you take photographs of, predominantly toy wise, or do you?
No, I do some Star Wars stuff, some Black Series. I actually got a 3D printer, and I'm into making studio scale X-wings and Tie fighters and that sort of thing.
You hang on. You've made that.
Yes,
Jeez,
yeah,
that is
that's
just
all resin.
incredible. And you've painted all of that as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
My dad was and still is big into model railroading. So when I was a
Yeah.
little kid, he had these massive train layouts, and I used to play with my GI Joes on that. So just being around him and seeing him craft stuff and make
Mm,
these amazing setups and dioramas, I think a lot of that kind of rubbed off on me. So yeah, it's nothing for me to go out and say, okay, well, I want to learn how to paint a model, so watch a bunch of YouTube videos and buy
mm.
some real cheap tools to just get the hang of it, and then if I like it and want to upgrade, then I can, and if not, no harm, no foul.
No, that is absolutely phenomenal. That's phenomenal. And this would kind of like lead into my next question. You're on Instagram. I'm. Would you ever consider doing a YouTube channel and taking people through the step by step process of how you do your shoots, and then get to talk people through that? Would that be of interest to you? Would you consider doing that?
Not only is it of interest, it's actually in the works. I do have a YouTube
Oh,
channel. It's not popular. I don't promote it. There are a couple of behind the scenes videos on there.
yeah.
Nothing uh, nothing really worth watching as far as I'm concerned yet. But that being said, I want to do a series of like how to build blast effects, how to build explosions, how I set up a shot, studio walkthroughs, that sort of thing. Went back to and to back up a little bit, I was an audio engineer before COVID for 22 years, and I'd have
Oh, okay.
January, February, and March off, and then our busy season
Mm,
would be April to December and New Year's, so to speak.
yeah.
COVID shut that industry down. I needed money, so I went back to working retail. Did that for a couple of years and needed a little bit more money. So now I'm getting back into the entertainment industry, only working weekends, have a lot more time. So now I can properly do the videos and walkthroughs and that sort of thing that I want. So yeah, that is definitely coming up hopefully before the end of the summer.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely subscribe because I just find that kind of thing fascinating. I really do. And I've said loads of times because I've had people on here that do photography before. And I just say to them, anybody who's like musically talented, like they can, um, artists like painting or models, dioramas, photography. I take my hat off to all of you. I really do because it's such a talent to be able to do that kind of thing. And yeah, I'm all for it. And I you know, I mean, going back to the you were saying about the boxes for the GI Joes, so that must have been a big influence for you then, because I mean, I think a lot of box art is. it's just a massive influence. It's got to be. And some of the, Master of the Universe. I mean, they've got some great box art. Would that not be something that you would be interested in doing, like working
Oh,
for a company like that
absolutely.
and doing their box art and to say, look what I can do, a bit better than yours? Do you know what I mean? Well, don't say that obviously because that's a bit, but that's what I would say if it was me. But that's just me. But yeah, you would do it a bit more diplomatically than that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, better is a matter of personal opinion, and I mean, there are
Yeah,
people that like
yeah,
my stuff and people that don't, and then that's
yeah.
totally fine.
No, I get that.
That
Yeah.
being said, I'd sell cocaine to nuns to work on some box art.
Yeah.
I stared like all the vehicles that I received as a kid. I kept all those
Mm,
boxes. Even the
yeah.
vehicles I don't have anymore, I still have those boxes, and I stared at that art for hours.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, the Hector's just a hell of an artist.
absolutely. I mean, I had opened up the HasLab Sky Striker, and it was just opening that first flap, and then taking that bit of cardboard off and seeing that box art there. And I was like, oh, do you know what? It so brings me back to being a kid. I mean, GI Joe, the carded vintage Star Wars figures, the Masters of the Universe, the Transformers. It was just so appealing, and for me, that's what got me into looking at the toy lines in the shops. It was just the box art, you know. And I
Yep.
know we throw a lot of boxes away. I mean, I keep my boxes, well, majority of my boxes now, but that GI Joe with the explosion behind it and everything like that, it's just so dynamic, isn't it?
It totally is, and you mentioned the HasLab. I've got mine just sitting over here and peeking at it
Okay.
right now, and, I missed out on the joy of it when I was younger, but I
Mm.
was never so happy to put so many no step stickers on something in my entire life, and, when I finally opened it like you did and got it out in my hands, I realized the thing I've been missing about all the vehicles and stuff that I've gotten recently, they're mostly together. I mean, you might have to
Yeah,
clip one thing on or another thing on or whatnot, but I miss building them. I mean,
yeah,
those toys were a lot like models. They had sprue trees. You had to clip pieces off, and you
mm,
can file them down if you wanted. But you put the stickers on where you wanted to, if they're straight or crooked or whatever. I mean, uh, yeah, I miss that thing. And like I said, I like making stuff with my hands and building
mm.
things, and so that was a big appeal. So yeah, I didn't realize how much I missed that until I got the Sky Striker out, and like, yes, let's do 15 no step stickers. Let's do
Yeah.
that.
No, it's awesome, awesome feeling opening that box up. Do you then have a sentimental or a prized piece in your collection?
My Spirit version one, actually probably the first 5 figures, maybe 5 or 6
Okay.
figures that I got given to me by my dad. So Spirit version one, the leather neck. My dad
Yep.
worked for the phone company. He'd have to go away on seminars, and he'd always bring me back a GI Joe. So the leather neck that I have, my vintage one, I got from him. Torch. I got him on
Yep.
card. Dad gave me him. Um, yeah, dad actually, come to think of it, dad was a really big proponent for making sure I was stocked with GI Joe. So anytime he went away, he came back with a figure, and birthdays, Christmas, and whatnot. Yeah, there's something GI Joe under the tree.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Do you have a grail piece? So there's one piece that you really would love in your collection and you wouldn't mind paying a little bit of money for.
I wish I had something profound to say right now, but I'm just going to echo what most people say, and it's got to be the flag. Um,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
pretty much everything from 82 to 85 in a condition that I'm happy with. But the flag has eluded me all this time. So there's been a couple times that have been close, but I've just gotten to the yard sale a little bit too late. I do have a line on one from a buddy of mine, but he's touring with a band right now, so he's not
Mm,
home, and that's 5 hours away. I will be doing some shows down there this summer, so hopefully we'll cross paths, and if so, and
mm.
it's still where he thinks it is, then
Yeah.
he'll just give it to me. But I'm not holding my breath on that one. So yeah, to get a flag and to be able to do, I mean, I did the math on this. I think the explosion is going to have to be 15 feet. And
Wow.
yeah, I might have to rent some warehouse space just to do the box art recreation of the flag once I finally get it.
That is just phenomenal. I mean, would you, if you did get the flag, would you do what other people have done, like G.I. Joe Berg, Scuba Pete? Andy from collecting toys, keep on collecting rather, and build underneath it and put it on a, put it on a like a pedestal sort of thing and put bits underneath it, that you would do that, would you? You're happy to do that?
I absolutely would, but I think I take it in a different direction, and I love what they do. I love the extra levels and the
Mm,
space, the play features and whatnot. But for me, I think what I'd want to see is like an authentic actual hall. So I probably make a wood structure with wheels, but hide the wheels.
yeah.
But actually make it like the hull of the boat and paint the bottom the red, and just do some detailing like that, and then use a 3D printer to do some small resin details and portholes and rivets and that sort of thing. So I'd probably finish it off like an actual boat and maybe set it up in a really big tank and have some cellophane as water all around it, and then I can do eels and shark and whatnot underneath, and have that as a big display piece.
I look forward to seeing that. Absolutely. Incredible. Incredible. This might be this one here, right? If you didn't collect GI Joe, what other toy line would you have collected?
I really like the Acid Rain figures. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those.
No.
They're 4 inch, so they're kind of like the modern Joe articulation and style.
Okay.
It's post-apocalyptic military fantasy. They've got mechs and whatnot. Let's see if I can reach one here real quick. Here we go. So
Oh,
this
okay.
is, yeah, Acid Rain. I mean, just generic gas mask, Gatling gun kind of thing. But yeah, they look really good. I love taking pictures of them, but they're not super popular, so it's not something that I'm posting a whole lot of.
Yeah.
Um, I did collect the Origins. I got all the figures that I couldn't get when I was a kid, so I was happy that Origins came out there at a great price point. So that was nice for me. Let's see. I like and I'm just looking up here at some of my
Yeah.
display. Um, the Transformers line, the Earthrise and Kingdom. I was
Yeah.
into that. So again, I got anything that looked like G1 that I didn't have when I was a kid, and some of the ones that I did. I mean, like Ironhide as a kid. That's a horrible, horrible figure. So yeah, I guess I just wanted the stuff I was watching on cartoons as a kid.
Hmm. I found it interesting that you said that those figures that you had, they're not very popular, so you don't take many photographs of those. Does a toy line have to be popular for you to take photos? Because I mean, surely a good, you know, I would class you as a very good photographer. People would want to look at your photography and go, "Wow, what figure's that?"
Right. Um,
Yeah, does it not
it
work like
doesn't have
that?
to be popular. I have posted some stuff,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, I guess I kind of see it as a brand. I mean, I'm known for GI Joe, and I love GI Joe. That's my hands down favorite. But every once in a while, you want a little chocolate ice cream instead of the vanilla. So, yeah, I do take pictures of some other things. But as far as it, being popular, and I hate to say it, I mean, everybody likes when they post something, and you like to see
Yeah.
a big turnaround and high traffic and whatnot. And so it's kind of disheartening. And when you spend some time on a photo and you really like it, and then it
Hmm.
just doesn't get seen. And I totally understand. I mean it's not a well-known toy line, and people aren't going to know what
Yeah.
it is, and people might not even recognize and just scroll by it. So I totally get that. And if I really wanted to, I could start other accounts and just post those things to other accounts. But um, yeah, every once in a while I'll post something new. But yeah, it's mainly just GI Joe.
Ah, awesome. With and talking to GI Joe, because we've been talking about it majority of this this conversation, which is cool. What do you think of the classified line?
uh I okay, let me take you through the phases of my feelings on Classified.
Yeah,
Uh,
please do.
when it was first announced, I'm gonna admit I was against it. I was O-ring for life. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
The first wave came out, and wow, I was really impressed. And yeah, they flipped me overnight with those. So I've got and I'm just looking at them down here now. I've got a pretty healthy collection of Classified. Um, One of the big things I like about Classified, because it's a new release and it's relatively easy to army build. So I've got a lot of the Blue Cobra Troopers and the Bats and
Okay.
Crimson
Yeah.
Guards, and they are excellent to take pictures with. They're so detailed. And that all being said, lately, and I'm hoping maybe it's just a couple of waves that I'm not super into with the figures that they're making that were newer than '86. Um, but yeah, I'm just gonna say his name, Lieutenant Falcon. That kind of,
Yes, yeah, I can.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
What? Yeah,
that
not a
kind
good
of,
look. Not a good look.
no, not at all. I don't want to say quality's gone down, but it I'm not super digging some of the new stuff. I was on the fence with Snow Job, and I decided to not pull the trigger on that. So
Mm.
I'm getting the ones that are easy to get. I'm really looking forward to Shipwreck. As an as a kid, I was not into Shipwreck, but
Yeah,
as an
yeah,
adult, I totally, he's the Han Solo of the GI Joe team on the cartoon. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
mm.
Um, yeah, that being said, I love the classified line. I love what they're doing. I
Yeah,
don't love that it's not readily available across the whole line in all areas.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not a fan. I don't know who is a fan of exclusives, but yeah,
Well,
I'd like to see everything be more available to everyone.
mm,
Um, but yeah, so it's not a love hate because I don't hate it.
mm.
Classified is very good. They're doing some good things, but not everything that they're doing is for me.
No, I've got to say, you did take me by surprise because when you said about the phases of the classified from your point of view, I was really expecting you to turn around and say when you saw the first wave of the GI Joe figures, you would have been disappointed because they look nothing like the GI Joe figures that we knew as kids from back in the
Right.
80s. So that kind of surprised me. What was it about those that you thought, yeah, okay, I like those? Was it just the size, the articulation? Because for me,
The size
it
and
wasn't the look for me. It wasn't the look for me.
right. I did like the size and articulation. Up until then, I had only been shooting the 3 3/4. So
Yeah.
uh, that was a challenge for me I had to scale up my effects. I had to scale up my dioramas. I had
Mm,
to light it differently, different camera settings and whatnot. But it was really easy to get highly detailed shots with the classified stuff. Um, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea and everybody's look, but I really
yeah.
like the look on Duke of the first series. Snake Eyes, as far as I'm concerned, the both the 00 release and his regular retail release, they did that very well. Very happy with that. I didn't think I was going to
Mm.
like Roadblock. I wasn't a V2 fan, and the the Weed Whacker, but I kind of let that go because I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting to like it. I thought I was just going to hate it immediately, and because new things are strange and different.
Mm.
So, but yeah, I got them in hand, and I just fell in love with them. I could get past the deco, I could get past the weird communicator things, and yeah, Scarlet, the articulation on Scarlet, I had her standing on her tiptoes without any support, and I mean, that was just
Wow.
really impressive. Would I rather she look like her original? Yeah. Can I paint it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it looked good, and I for lack of for what it all comes down to is I enjoyed playing with them, so that won me
Oh,
over.
listen, there's no right way or wrong way of collecting. I've said this so many times before, and it is basically people's personal choice of what they like and what they don't like. There's I've grown into classifieds because now the figures are starting to come out and they are looking more like they did back in the 80s.
Yeah,
I've got to say, I was quite shocked with the first wave, the first 5 or 6 figures. I've said this before as well. I think it was a lot to do with Valaverse and the Action Force lines that come out that you know they've improved Hasbro with the way their figures look and the articulation, I guess, and the accessories they come with. So yeah, I mean, I'm liking them. I've stopped collecting them for the time being. I've had to sort of like cut back a little bit because of lack of space and
yeah,
money is I won't say tight, but money is needs to go elsewhere at the moment. More important
absolutely, and
things
they're
to put
going
your
up
money on.
week after week. They're super expensive.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But you know, for the most part, I do like the classified line, and I think they display and they look really good.
Yeah,
What about the retro line that they started doing? Because I was hoping that they were going to bring out more retro figures and the O-ring figures because they did the 2 packs
yeah,
and then they did the Sky Striker. They had the AWE Strike Jeep come out, which I got, but it was more of the 4-inch figures and the three and three
yeah,
quarter inch, and they weren't O rings. They did the two um, his tanks and the Fang. I would like to see more O-ring figures
Yeah, I was
coming
hoping
out.
that was gonna be a bigger release. I mean, I guess
Mm,
it was probably too much to dream that, everything they released back in the '80s was just going to be,
mm,
re-released in similar waves or
yeah,
whatever. So I kind of see where it's going now. It's just the really big popular figures packed in with a transformer or a vehicle or something like that. So not what I was hoping for. I really wanted to replace the pieces in my set that are prone to breaking,
yeah,
like Duke, and that head on the new Duke is, ooh, yeah, he's staying in the
yeah,
package. I don't need
yeah,
to take pictures of that. And now that I got a 3D printer, I can print the crotch pieces and paint them up to look
yeah.
good enough for photos. Because I am terrified every time I put Duke in a shot that, you know,
Wow.
he's gonna be crotchless by the end of it.
Uh,
And I do have a number of backups, but I mean,
yeah,
like, these things are getting more expensive day after day. So
absolutely. Mm,
I was hoping it was gonna be a cost-effective way to get, more toys that I could
yeah,
play with in photos easier, and I
mm,
don't think that's going to be the case. That being said, I like some of them. I like the improvements in the O-rings. I like the bendy
yeah,
thumbs. I like the extra weapons that came with the Cobra 2-pack.
yeah.
Um, so, yeah, I've got all those. I missed out on the, Storm Shadow Snake Eyes, so I just got the Snake Eyes from those 2 from, my local comic shop. They didn't have the Storm Shadow anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's not like it used to be, but,
No.
uh, and I never used to be a mint on card kinda guy, but the older I get, the more I wanna display and look at things
Yeah.
beside mint on card. So, for me, it kind of feels that I don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on the original vintage that's mint on card, just pick those
Yeah.
up where I can find them, and then, yeah, they look great on display.
Because the Baroness comes with the his tank, doesn't she? But the his
Yeah,
tank then transforms into Megatron, so she's on card back, isn't she?
yeah,
See, I don't want to pay all that money just because I'm not interested in the vehicle. I
right.
just want the figure on the card. But are
It
you
made sense
keeping?
for me because I can always use his tanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't display him as Megatron. He's okay in the robot mode. I
yeah.
prefer Bumblebee in the robot mode. I know a lot of
Mm.
people didn't like the colors and weren't really into it. And yeah, he's a little loose, but his articulation is great, and he
Which one was
looks.
Bumblebee?
He turned into the Striker.
Oh, yeah, it was Bumblebee, was it? Okay,
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
and yeah, I didn't think I was gonna like that as much in the robot
Mm.
mode, and I haven't put him into Ostriker mode yet 'cause, I loved it the second I got out of the package, and
Wow,
I
interesting.
was starting a photo setup, and I tore that down immediately, got him out of the package and took him out, and so that's coming up this week, the week of
Cool,
first week of May. Yeah, that photo
awesome.
will be on Instagram. And he's great. He's got a big light pipe enter in the back of his head, so I could put an LED right back there and make his eyes glow
Okay,
blue.
wow,
And yeah, yeah, he was a lot of fun to play
awesome.
with.
And I'm guessing he came with crankcase on the card, yeah?
No, the Stalker.
Stalker.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. He comes with Stalker, which is odd. He should have come with crankcase and that amazing weapon.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm not sure why it came with Stalker. I think I'm not sure if it's confirmed or there's still rumors, but there's supposed to be, or the next one is Soundwave as the Thunder Machine with Zartan, maybe. Um,
wow.
that's
Okay.
it's kind of I think it's more of a color thing because
Yeah.
Soundwave's blue and Thunder Machine's sort of blue.
I
Uh,
wish they stopped doing that.
yeah,
Personally, that's different.
yeah. I mean,
Everyone.
it's an okay idea.
Yeah.
I think Hound would have been a better choice than Bumblebee. Hound as a
Oh,
van.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hound and Clutch, I mean, yeah, no-brainer right
Yeah,
there. Maybe we'll still get it. Who
absolutely.
knows?
Well, here's to hoping. Here's to hoping. Right, we're coming to the top of the hour. I've got two questions left for you.
Alright.
What does oh no, sorry, hang on a minute. What gives you that toy collecting and photography buzz?
Oh, it could be something as simple as, just watching the intro to the G.I. Joe movie, which I did last week and saw the snake
Mm,
eyes flip thing, like, "Oh, there I can pull that off practically, I know how to do that." Sometimes it's an effect, like, something that I did here not too long ago, the glowing skull guy, and I'm just laying on the couch. I'm like, oh hey, I can put an LED behind the skull that I get just kicking
Yeah.
around from somewhere, and I'll make it look like it glows. So sometimes inspiration is just coming from thinking of doing a new effect. Using the cellophane as water, that came like so many ideas. Cut a little hole in it and you can have someone pop up through, or like the head of the eel or the Crocmaster head popping up out of the water, or walking
Yeah.
through the water, that sort of thing. Yeah, just coming up with new ideas and trying out new stuff. That's really inspiring. Always box art and comic books and that sort of thing. When I realized I could switch out Zartan's arm and get the not only the screw out of the back, but undo that sonic weld on the original Zartan and pop him apart.
Yeah.
And then so I had a number of Fireflies, so put Firefly's arm on him, and you can do that handshake where in the comic where Zartan and Firefly meet, and he takes his camouflage and that sort of thing. So just put a little
Wow.
LED in the hands and make that glow, and yeah, just do that all practical. So yeah, the inspiration comes from a lot of
Just cool.
places.
Yeah, definitely. This is blowing me away. This is awesome. I'm loving this chat. Right, last question. What does your collection and photography mean to you?
Well, it's a happy place. It's a safe place. It's a place where, or it's something that I can share with friends, without being judged.
Yeah.
Uh, and like yourself, I mean, you meet another collector, you kind of know a little bit about that person right away because you share the same, maybe not the same lines, but you share the same
Yeah.
passion and the same
Yeah.
drive. So there's that common ground. Um, and it's a creative release. It's art, and I guess I've always been creative. I've always liked making stuff, if it's music or if it's drawing or writing or whatever. So this is just something that I can do relatively quickly and get some sort of satisfaction about actually completing something and having something to look at when it's all done.
Yeah.
And there are photos that I've taken that don't perform very well that I'm incredibly proud of, and then there's stuff that I've taken that are just it's super popular, and I don't know why. Like I
Yeah.
might not have thought it was really good to begin with, or maybe after revisiting it and looking at it after I posted, I was like, actually, I probably should have redone that. But yeah, general rule of thumb, and I'm not sure why. If I really really like it, it's probably not going to do too well, and if I'm not really feeling it, then it's probably going to be super popular.
Wow. It's crazy. Crazy how things work out. That unfortunately has come to the top of the hour and the end of the chat. I've got to say, I am just blown away by your enthusiasm and your photography. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you like face to face properly for the first time. Thank you so much for being part of this. Where can people find you on social media?
On Instagram at Mate Mylar. That's all one word. And yeah, you see my name up there, just all one word with the at in front of it. It's a little bit different on Twitter. The Ghost Machina. So
Hang on, let me
machine
write
with
this
an
down.
A.
Let me write this down.
All right, he's writing it down. Perfect.
I'm going to write it
That
down
was
because
my
so
yeah.
the
I did a
ghost
live.
machine.
Yeah, the Ghost Machine, but machine. It's kind of a play on Deus Ex Machina. So like yeah, it was a band, one man band that I was in, making loops and guitars and like Daft Punk vocoder type thing. So where I didn't actually have a band behind me and I'm just making loops, and that was kind of a play
Okay.
on. Yeah. Anyway, it's weird, but yeah, I already had that account and I just started posting what I call
Yeah.
B sides. So when I take a shot, I'll take a couple hundred maybe, with different lighting effects and moving the lights around and whatnot, and then I'll go through them all and I'll narrow that down to probably 30, and then I'll actually import those from the camera and delete the rest, and then of those 30, I'll narrow those down to 2 or 3, and then I will transfer, like use Photoshop to transfer from the raw file to JPEG and
Yeah.
send those to my phone. And then as far as processing goes, I just hit that auto button on the iPhone app, and then whatever it does, I take it down. Like if that's 100%, I take it down to 10%. So it
Okay.
always exaggerates everything, and I just take it down. Um, and yeah, so I usually have a number of shots, like 2 or 3, and so on Twitter, I'm like, well, I've got this second shot, and I might as well put it on Twitter, and
Yeah.
uh, a lot of people post on multiple accounts, and that's totally fine, totally cool. But for someone that's following that person on all the different accounts, it can get a little repetitive. So I thought,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
let's just vary it a little bit. There might be a different lighting, or maybe I did a shot one day and thought, you know what, I can frame that a little better. So I'll do the shot again the next day with a different framing, and then when it comes time to look at the two, it's like, well, I kind of like them both. So Instagram, I call my main account, and Twitter's the B
yeah,
side, but it's not really B side. It's like I like the stuff I post on Instagram for one reason, and the stuff I post on Twitter for another. So I like that I can vary it. And so if you are following me on both places, then you get a bit
yeah.
of variation. And if
Awesome.
not, then at least you still get to see it.
Awesome. Oh, seriously, this has just been mind-blowingly interesting. I've loved listening to you, mate. Mate, sorry. Um, awesome stuff. Thank you so much for being part of this. Unfortunately, that has come to the end of the chat. Yeah, so all your social media links, I will pop them in the description below. I just got to say thank you very much for watching. This has been Mate Mylar. What an absolute fantastic conversation this has been. What a top guy and what a photographer. Absolutely loving your work, sir. So yeah,
A
thank you
pleasure.
very much. Stay safe out there, guys. Take care, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.